Welcome back, everybody, to our Halloween season episodes of Cool's Reviews Deep Dives. As you can see, we got David Nevermore and Brenden. And I'm sure you can tell, at least by all our backgrounds, we're going to be talking The Raven. This is the film with John Cusack as the one and only Edgar Allan Poe. Now, David, I don't think any of... Well, Brenden, was this your first time seeing this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Brennan's first time, because I know me and David talked about it before. Like, right off the bat, like, how much did you know about Edgar Allan Poe?
Besides, he's a poet and he wrote a poem called The Raven? Nothing.
What about that there's a football team?
Very uneducated person.
Yeah, there's a whole...
I guess I didn't know that part.
Okay.
I didn't know that the Baltimore Ravens were named after him.
Yeah. I think he's the only poet to have a team named after him in America. So
I believe they're the only literature-based team.
Nice.
I'd have to check. There might be one other, but I believe it's just them. That's why Ravens are one of my favorite teams.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a little nice homage. Obviously, Baltimore started off as the Colts. They moved to Indy. So when they got their team back, they paid homage to probably the best known person from that area. I know he wasn't like from, but he did spend quite a bit of time. I think he's buried out in that area, right?
That's really the only claim to fame with Baltimore as far as him is he did have a house there, but that is where he died.
Yeah. He we'll get into his death and stuff because obviously the movie gets into it. David, what did you know about Edgar Allan Poe pre the movie, I should say?
A lot. No, I mean, you can even go check it out. Abnormal Voyages. We went to one of the big Poe museums. It's in Virginia. He's had a very tragic, fascinating life, and I've always been, a fan of many of his different pieces. And he was definitely, I think, somebody before his time. I think that if he would have been even a little later born into, I think he would have had a much more successful and happier life. But he really is, I think, one of the godfathers of American literature. Like, he was one of the big first ones out there, and he was definitely one of the first ones to really hone in on the macabre and kind of the gothic horror kind of feel and things like that. And I'm not even like a big horror fan personally, but a lot of his stories are very good. I like that a lot of the horror is almost left in your mind in some of it, or it's a lot of things like psychological torment and things like that that are really, the bad things, even though there's plenty of bloody and gory ones as well. But yeah, no, big fan. And I think personally, I know this movie gets crapped on by some people, but I think this is a great movie too.
Yeah, no, I know I said last week or last episode that I thought this was a spiritual successor to the Sleepy Hollow and just the feel of it.
I guess the tone and everything,
tone and kind of the detective aspect of this, because obviously Poe in real life wasn't going around like being a detective about his murders, but it felt kind of in that kilt.
Well, he wasn't a detective either.
No, he was a poet.
Well, yeah, he was just Edgar Allan Poe, but the police asked him to help because it was literally based on his stories.
Poems. Yeah. And yeah, as far as me, I remember, I think I first got introduced to Poe in middle school, like 7th grade. My literature teacher was like a big Poe fan, so he had us read all his poems.
Nice.
Or a good chunk of them. So I have some collected works. I'm sure they probably are just repeats. But they always have such cool covers. I'm like, I gotta get it. Like, especially like when Barnes and Noble did it. And I know
it's a pretty book. The one that they have, like the leather bound, like it's nice. I like how they do their collections.
Yeah, I like their like throwbacky leather ones that they do. It's really cool. I know last year when we did our Sleepy Hollow one, we said maybe Poe drew some inspiration from that story. Do you still feel that same way, David?
I mean, maybe. I think Poe was definitely in a class of his own. I don't think, because Sleepy Hollow is really not that scary when you get down to it, and it's very
much more of a romance story than
it is. I mean, in some ways, I think that story is almost closer to a fairy tale than a horror story, because the elements that are in it, like you said, it's very much a romance until near the end. There's all the classic things of, the tropes of new guy coming to town, girl falls in love with him, he's just a humble teacher. There's even like a local bully, all this stuff. And then there just happens to be this terrifying force that he has to match wits with. And the only thing that kind of makes it a little more horror than fairy tale is, of course, they don't have a happy ending. And Ichabod Crane does get killed by those horsemen.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe Prom is the one that killed him. I'm still on that boat. Like, just the way it ends, where people are like, yeah, if you talk about his story around Brom, he seems to know more than he lets on. So I think either he scared him out of town or he killed him, But that's just me. But yeah, going into Poe, his story is definitely much darker, I think, than Sleepy Hollow ever was.
And I think that's because, Poe himself had a much darker and more tragic life than Longfellow ever did.
Yeah, and he almost seems like he has this, like, I know we talk about like the tragic artist and like dark clouds. Poe actually seems to have a dark cloud that followed him around.
Yeah, he was the definition of super depressed writer boy kind of thing.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like by design. I think you see it a lot today where people are like, I got to be like this tortured artist.
Yeah, I don't think Poe wanted to be.
No, I think he wanted a normal life, but
if he could have been happy, I think he would have taken it by far.
Yeah, but like you said, I think it reflects in his stories, and some of them are just so haunting, like the knocking, and they find, that there's just imagery in those stories that I think people can relate to, and I don't know if it's just like the fear of the unknown, or just like that subconscious urge to, like, it's the fight or flight, right?
I think it says a lot about him that a lot of these stories and the fears in them are things that we can still relate to today. Some people that wrote stuff back then, of course, a lot of it doesn't really apply to us anymore. It's not things that we're like, oh yeah, I relate to that. It's more like, okay, I'm reading like old literature. You know what I mean? Like, you're seeing it as something from the past. Whereas a lot of Poe's stories, the scary parts of them are still just as scary today, dealing with things like the Telltale Heart, just dealing with that guilt of doing something and it eating away at you until it literally drives you crazy kind of thing. Or dealing with the sorrow of losing somebody, like in The Raven, until again, it basically drives you mad. Like, I definitely see a lot more in his stories that we can apply to today than other perhaps literary minds back then. And I think that's probably why a lot of Poe's works lend themselves so well to modern day adaptations. It's not that hard to change them up. Like some year, I would love for us to do maybe a deep dive of the Netflix series they did pretty recently, I think a couple years ago, The Fall of the House of Asher. Great series. Like, they did a very good job of that. And it's all modern day now, but it applies really well and is very, very creepy.
Yeah, no, like you said, his works really translate well, which is hard.
I'm sorry, I said Asher. Usher. It's Usher.
Usher. Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, I thought it was Usher, but maybe Mandela.
No, yeah. I was thinking that too. I was like, it's not Asher. Yeah, Fall of the House of Usher. Yeah, it was very good.
But yeah, we've seen it with horror literature and authors where they're just not able to translate. Like, I know Stephen King is one of the big ones where like the movies are just terrible. But yeah,
beyond the recent, I do think It Chapter 1 and 2 are pretty good.
I think It Chapter 1 was definitely the better of the two.
Oh, it was, but I think 2 did a good job. They still wrapped it up, but a lot of these authors, they put so much into it and so much imagery, so much of that, the inner thoughts. It's so hard to do as any kind of other medium. It's like things basically have to be written as a movie, or it's really difficult to make them work.
Yeah, well, and like you were talking about It Chapter 1 and 2, because the book itself's over 1,000 pages. That's a lot of stuff to translate into a 2-hour movie,
even into 2 movies.
Yeah, and which story for another time. We won't get into that. Going into Poe, though, obviously he dies kind of strangely. What was his cause of death? Like, if you had to speculate, David, what do you think got him?
So, I like that we're starting off with only, a mystery that people have been trying to figure out for hundreds of years. Good. Uh, I, looking at everything that I've at least seen, I kind of side with the people that say he was poisoned.
Hmm.
I feel like not a lot else could explain all the symptoms of what was going on and how he reacted. Like it other things are plausible, but I do think I think he was murdered. I think something happened, that somebody got something into his system that it reacted poorly or it didn't, and he couldn't fight through it.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely had some people that didn't like him because he was trying to marry, forget the girl's name, but her brothers really didn't like him. So it's definitely a possibility maybe they were the ones that did it. Of course, we don't have any records of that. I've always been, as at least as of recent, I don't know why, but I really like the idea that for some reason the people at the voting place picked him and they were using him to fraudulently vote because at those times you also got drinks, which he obviously had allergic reactions to, and I think that's what sent him over the edge.
Oh, he was a big time alcoholic. Like that was
Mhm.
definitely, and I understand when you look at his life, you get a little better idea of why he was so reliant on substances. Like again, super sad story, but I could see that he was involved with something that he was like, hey, I get free drinks for doing it. Why not? And it just tipped him over. And then, but in that same time, if he was doing that, it would have been real easy to spike one of his drinks with something that they were like, we got to tie up the loose ends. Because once he came to, he might have then gone in and been like, yeah, I did all this voting, or something like that. Maybe they were like, easiest way to take care of it, put something in his last drink, out of the picture.
Well, I know there's also the theory that he had like a brain tumor, and who knows? It could have been all of them. Like all these, maybe it
Yeah,
was just
a little bit of
perfect
everything.
concoction. Yeah, it was the voter fraud, like you said. Maybe somebody spiked his drink, and the tumor was slowly getting him anyways, and whatever they spiked it with just sent him over the edge.
I don't think he had a tumor personally, but I can't discount it.
Right. Yeah, I think that comes from whenever they dug up his body, right? And they heard like rattling in his skull. And they said it was his brain shriveled up, but people are like, brains don't do that. We've been have to been like
I didn't know that they ever dug him up.
yeah, I think they
That's
they
messed
dug
up.
him up to rebury him. Yeah, see again, we're talking about that black cloud. Even when they were on a way to bury him, I think his casket broke and he like fell out.
I could see that.
Yeah, and I was just like, this guy can't catch a break. Like he's just like
Even when he's dead, yeah.
yeah, even when he's dead.
I want to say they did, because I think I remember this one of the museums. They did take some of his hair before or like after he had been dead, and like tested it for things, and I think it came back with like a ridiculous amount of crazy substances and stuff that like it didn't help them at all. It actually made things like more confusing. Finding out like what was in his system when he died and everything, they're like, "What?"
Yeah, where they're going to like, okay, this will help us like
Yeah, like, well, this will
conclusively, like,
narrow it
figure
down.
out. Yeah.
And instead of answering a question, it just raised like 6 more.
Yeah, it was just like, actually, here's 30 more questions to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a little bit on Edgar Allan Poe. At some point, we'll get more into him, I'm sure. But let's get into the film.
But hold on. So they'll just say no. So that's kind of the basis of this movie,
Mhm.
is because nobody knows what happened in that last span of days before he died, and then the circumstances of his death were very mysterious. So The Raven, the movie, kind of is like this is the accounting of that like last week or so of his life, of what happened that led to his death and why he died. That's what this movie's kind of like trying to say. They're filling in of their
Mhm.
fictional accord. Like this is how he died. So
Yeah.
spoiler alert, he does die at the end.
Yeah,
But you see
spoiler
him dying
alert.
at the beginning of the movie, so
Yeah. Well, and, if you know a little bit about history, I'm sure you guys know where this was going. It's not like From Hell where they changed the ending of Jack the Ripper's story and the victims there. This one, he still meets his end. We'll start with the casting with John Cusack. David, pre-watching the movie and post, give us your thoughts on the casting of John Cusack as Edgar Allan Poe.
So personally, I've always been a big John Cusack fan. I'll watch anything he's in. I think he's great. So I had no problem with it. Though if I was casting a movie, I don't know if he's the first person I would have gone to be like, oh, that's Edgar Allan Poe. It just seems a little darker, a little because John Cusack, I know he's been in like a bunch, but I kind of in my mind link him to like romantic comedy type stuff. And then maybe a couple more serious roles, but nothing ever too like heavy. So this one, I would not have instantly gone to him, but I wasn't upset about it. I know they actually did consider a couple of other people for this before John Cusack. I was reading it. Let me see. I wrote it down, I think. Ian McGregor was actually one of the people that was going to be in this movie, but I don't think he was going to be Poe. He was going to be they don't know. They didn't officially say. I think it may have been Poe that they were talking about him because I could see that fit. I know Jeremy Renner was originally supposed to be the cop that Luke Evans ends up being. Yeah, that was going to be him. And I was like, okay, I could see that. Joaquin Phoenix was approached at one point to be Edgar Allan Poe in this movie.
Which I could see that.
And especially back then when he was a little younger, a little, that would have been a very dark Poe, I think. Like with Joaquin, I absolutely could see that of happening. But no, I didn't have a problem with it. And after seeing it, I think he pulled it off. It was definitely a little more of a playful take, I think. It made him feel more like a regular person. And I think that that's what this movie wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they succeeded in that of he was just kind of a troubled guy, but for the most part was just a regular dude that really liked to drink. Like the whole movie,
he liked to drink and he was allergic to it, but he still did it anyway.
like the whole time, you're rooting for Poe to succeed, and you want him to get the girl. You want him, to see him outsmart the killer. Like I think he did a good job of being a likable Poe, which from all accounts I've read, I don't know if the real Poe was quite as sociable or likable as what we see in this movie.
Yeah, that's the one thing. But again, with people that have such a mythology or a lore behind them, it's hard to tell where that mythology ends and where the person begins. So like you said, I think they wanted to strip all that away and just say, here's Poe. He is kind of tortured and stuff. I mean, at one point he's dissecting a human heart with his pet raccoon.
Just to check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to get an inspiration. But he wasn't as dark as I think I even picture him either.
This was almost more like a quirky Poe,
Yeah. And I think that's where John Cusack fits. Like, there's certain actors you don't picture them, but it's just their portrayal. You're like, that works. Going into this movie, I was a big fan of, like I said, Edgar Allan Poe anyway, so I was pretty excited. And I think this was about the time like John Cusack was kind of having a kind of small renaissance going on.
Resurgence and
yeah. So he was out and everything. So you're like, okay, well, let's go give it a chance. And coming out of it and even rewatching it before this one, I thought he did a good job. Especially, I mean, just compared. What else do we have to compare with? Like, how many other good Poes do we really have?
I'm honestly, this has made me think. I'm surprised we don't have more Poe movies like about Poe himself instead of his stories. Like it's honestly, it's crazy to me that we don't have like an Edgar Allan Poe biopic with some major star or something that was a big movie. Probably because it's so sad. Like there's no happy ending in this movies if you did something about Poe's life.
There's no happy endings, but like in the day that true crime does so well,
it would probably do well if you did it right.
Yeah.
But you would have to really work to make it not like a niche film to be something that everybody would want to see to get, the money that they expect of box office things now. But I think a movie about Poe and his life could do extremely well if they did it right.
What if they did it with like Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio?
I don't think Leo could be Edgar Allan Poe.
I was just thinking that because that was the rumor for H.H. Holmes at one point, and I was like, I
could see him as H.H. Holmes.
Could you?
I could see that more than Edgar Allan Poe because we don't know a lot about H.H. Holmes. You just kind of have to have that like charismatic, but enough to like get people to come and die.
You know who I think would be good?
Leo could do it. What?
Tom Hardy.
As Poe?
No, as
as Holmes? Yes, I could absolutely. Because you could see that kind of madness happening behind his eyes type thing. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because what did he do? Bronson, I think, was the movie he did.
Yeah, unfortunately, if they did an Edgar Allan Poe movie today, it would probably be Timothée Chalamet.
I only laugh because you're right. It would
And he, I mean,
definitely
he does look like kind of a Victorian era sickly, misfortunate boy. So sure, why not? But I could see, like, honestly, with the facial hair, he probably could pull off the look pretty well.
yeah. Well, also, I'm surprised no one has used Poe more in like a fictionalized story, kind of like this.
Hmm.
Like we've seen with Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. I'm surprised we don't get something more
Yeah, whereas like
macabre.
Edgar Allan Poe, Witch Hunter,
Yeah, Edgar Allan
whereas
Poe, the first Ghost Hunter, or something like that.
or like yeah, like Master Spiritualist or something. Like I could see it. You know what? We're gonna write that. That's ours now.
Yeah, Edgar Allan Poe, the first creepypasta writer. Let's get it going.
Yeah, first creepypasta writer. Okay.
No, we're giving too much credit to the creepypastas. Hey, some of them are good. Some of them they're just not Edgar Allan
Edgar
Poe.
Allan Poe, the original Zach Baggins.
Hey, now you're talking. Well, we're gonna write Zach Baggins and be like, "Yo, Zach, we got a movie idea."
Could you imagine if he funded himself as Edgar Allan Poe in an Edgar Allan Poe movie?
Hey, as long as we wrote it, I'd be okay
It
with
seems like something he would do.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make a mock-up now and send it on Twitter into the
Be like,
Twitterverse.
Zach, I found it. I found your next masterpiece.
Zach Baggins, Edgar Allan Poe.
Hey, Ghost, don't mess with me nevermore.
Yeah. So now that we've gone severely off track, where were you? I don't even think we started. Brennan, why don't you kick us off? What is this movie about? I think David really wrapped it up nicely, but from your perspective, what's a good summary of this one?
All right, good. So, mood.
I don't know how to put it in words. I'm trying to think of it.
No, you know who they
Bad
make?
boy.
Poe? They make the guy that played the Crow Poe, Skarsgård.
Pennywise?
I don't want that.
Because that's him. Skarsgård, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he wouldn't be Poe. He's kind of like, because I mean, Skarsgård is famously very like, I don't know if it's anxiety or what, but I know he doesn't like crowds, things. He's very kind of keeps to himself. I guess Poe was kind of like that in life.
Mm-hmm. Which again is very different than what well, not really. I mean, we don't see him going to like all these things outside of the dance, I guess. Where
I mean, I didn't get the feeling that he was anti-people at all. I mean, I think he had some of that arrogance still, where I feel like he thought he was better than a lot of people.
yeah,
But I don't think that he was like anti, being whatever, being in society. If anything, he reveled in being famous when he was like at that bar. Remember?
yeah,
So I liked this version of Poe a lot better than I think the real Poe was.
yeah, and I think that would be interesting to look more. I know we just had that interview up with Mark Dowitziak, who just wrote that Poe book, but yeah, we should.
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody has like looked into it and found out that Poe was probably some level of autistic or something like that. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. With everything else that went wrong in his life, that would just be another addition to it. But he was definitely an odd guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had something, some kind of mental issues, be it either something like autism he was born with, or maybe, trauma, just things develop as he went, and therapy not really being a big thing back then.
Yeah. Well, and I think something that works really well for this movie is the cast is pretty stacked. There's some
Great casting in this.
Yeah, and there's some pretty big named actors that I was like, Or maybe again that's why it kind of reminds me of Sleepy Hollow, where there were so many big name actors in that one that it just works so well. And
Every time I see this, it makes me think, like, why is Alice Eve not in more movies? She is gorgeous.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I'm surprised she hasn't done more.
Yeah, like,
because she did a pretty good job
super
too.
cute. She's a very good actress.
Yeah.
I can't believe that we haven't seen her in like more movies, that she never really became like an A-list the same way a lot of other actresses did.
Was this Luke Evans like one of his first big roles, or?
I don't know if it's one of his first ones, but it was definitely, I think, a pretty good one for him. I don't think he'd blown up as much. And I think he's a delight. I love seeing Luke Evans and stuff. I think he's a great actor too. So I'm not upset that it wasn't Jeremy Renner or whoever.
Yeah, no, and Jeremy, he gets his wait, was this after?
This is after, I think, this is after what?
The Hurt Locker?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Because I was going to say he gets his break there, but obviously he would have already had his break. But I really like him in The Hurt Locker. I think he did such a good job in that movie.
He's another actor that I really like him, but I do feel like Jeremy Renner's a little more limited in what you cast him as. I think he's a little more of a, like, this is that kind of person, you know, when you're casting him. A certain
Could you
look.
cast him as Poe? Put a
I
little
don't think
mustache on him?
I don't think as Poe. I would see him more as like an Ernest Hemingway.
So now we're going to have a whole, like, famous writers, like, cinematic universe.
I mean, I'd go watch the hell out of that. But especially the Ernest Hemingway, the kind of way they did it in Midnight in Paris, where he's always like,
Wilson.
"You want to fight about it?" Like, I could totally see Jeremy Renner like.
So not famous writer, but Van Gogh was the one. Did he cut his ear off? Right?
No. Oh yes, that was Van Gogh that cut it off to look at it to paint it better. Yes.
Yeah. Did you know Martin Scorsese plays him in a Kurosawa film?
That's crazy. Is it a small part?
Yeah, it's called Dreams. So there's different dream sequences that Kurosawa had or something. And one of them's him talking with Go, and it's just Scorsese, like all bandaged up and everything too.
That's really funny.
Yeah. Is it Brandon Gleeson in this movie?
I think so. Yeah.
I always get him and
yeah, that's playing the captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which reminded me of From Hell because he plays right? Or is that Hagrid that plays? No, I think it's Gleeson in From Hell, right?
Yeah, I think he's great, and I loved him as Mad Eye Moody in the Harry Potter movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he's a fantastic actor. I mean, I just saw for the first time a couple days ago Paddington 2, and he is in that. He's actually a pretty decent sized role in that movie. I was like, this is a really good movie.
I fact checked myself. I was wrong. It is Robbie Coltrane that plays From Hell. He plays Johnny Depp's captain.
See, okay, that would be an interesting choice if they did a Poe movie with Johnny Depp.
Yeah, I could see Johnny Depp doing it.
I think he could do it.
Especially like modern Johnny, I think we could still get away with it. Like
yeah, and it feels like it's in his wheelhouse of things that he could do really well. It would have to be a more serious take than what he's used to doing in a lot of stuff. Like, it couldn't be like a goofy Willy Wonka type or Jack Sparrow, but I think he could bring the right, like, brooding.
I don't know. He might be able to do some Jack Sparrow when he's really drunk.
So, Brendan, do you have that summary ready, or would you rather me do it?
You can do it.
Okay. So long story short, like I said, this is taking place during his period of nobody really knowing what happened in that last week or so of his life. And what they are offering up in this movie is what happened is Poe is going about his regular life, and there's a killer that is suddenly loose on the streets that is murdering people in the same ways that people die in Poe's stories. The police look into it. They actually question Poe at first because, of course, that's going to be their first suspect. They realize, it's definitely not him, but then they kind of rope him in to helping them to discover who is the killer. So this person keeps doing things from his stories, leaving clues, almost like a Riddler-esque thing from like Batman, of showing like, what's going to be next. They got to figure out what story and where. And then it make it kind of personal because Edgar Allan's fiance at this point, this high-class lady that they've fallen in love and they're going to get married, the killer actually kidnaps her and hides her away and is basically, I'm going to kill her if you can't find her. Eventually, they do find, at the end, they do it, but he ends up getting poisoned basically to save her. He kind of exchanges his life for her life. So very, very good, I think, movie. Very interesting take on what happened in his life and kind of elevates him, makes his death kind of a heroic thing instead of a sad accident of what it probably was.
Mm-hmm. Well, going off of the whole killer aspect, we don't get that revealed till not the very end, but pretty close to it, right?
Of who it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going through the movie, David, who did you at first think it was?
I really had no idea. I was thinking it might just be like a super fan kind of thing. I didn't necessarily think it was somebody we'd already seen. I like that it was, so it does make it almost like a murder mystery instead of just, oh, there's a killer. So I thought that was really cool. I thought at one point that it might be somebody hired by like her father that just really didn't want Poe to have anything to do with, her, and was trying to like frame him or get rid of him kind of thing. But there was a lot of different things it could have been. So I think it was really good. They thread it throughout the story pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Brendan, what about you? Who did you think the killer was going to end up to be?
Kansas Kite Monster.
Exactly. Always the Kansas City Monster. I don't know. I don't know if I could really ever guess who it was. I guess I wasn't really thinking of that type of thing. I was just enjoying the storyline that was going on. I never tried to solve it.
See, I think there's a decent amount of red herrings throughout. Like Luke Evans's character comes out as like a fan of Poe's, so you're like, oh, I wonder if it's him. But then, of course, they show him and the killer at the same time, so you're like, well, it can't be him.
Yeah, at one point, I did think it might be him that was like conducting the investigation.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's in the perfect spot to do it.
Yeah. And that definitely feels very of the time where you have these fictionalized stories of like people where the murderer or the criminal like meets the detectives and they don't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that would have made sense. Like,
plus my go-to whenever I'm watching something, if they don't reveal like who's the bad guy or whatever, I'm always like, all right, besides the main character, who's the next biggest actor name in this? Because there's no way they're just a side part. Like, oh, that's the bad guy. You know what I mean? So with Luke Evans, it was definitely a like, I could see if he was the bad guy. Like, oh yeah, But I think that was kind of a red herring. Like they purposely had him in it that because the killer ends up being like a nobody.
yeah, it's just like his apprentice. I also thought too the one guy with the mustache that works for her dad.
Yeah.
Because he'll come in late to scenes and he looks like he's like cleaning
and just
himself
kind of
up.
shifty in the background.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, it's gonna be him. And so like it would show the kidnapper's eyes and the killer's eyes. So you're like looking around like, no, different color eyes. It can't be him. I'm trying to think if I thought it was anyone else.
What if it would have been her? That would have been crazy.
She kidnapped herself. She has like split personality disorder or something. That'd be a wild take.
That would be just Poe's luck.
Also, I don't know the actor's name, but the guy that plays the actual serial killer. Oh, at the very beginning too, I think they try to make you think Poe was doing it because the killer's like shown in the
clear
dark.
that up pretty quick though.
Yeah, but I definitely think they try at the very beginning to make you think, oh, Poe did it. He's like drunk. He doesn't remember.
Yeah, because he kind of wakes up and yeah.
And he's dissecting a human heart, and you're like, oh, that's kind of strange.
Like, where did you get that?
Is it true Poe had like a pet raccoon? I don't remember.
Let me look. That's actually good. I kind of wondered that. I think it might just be something they added as like a quirky.
I do like that. We don't know. He's just been hanging around, and you hear like the raccoon making noises. He's like, no, I can tell by the noises. That's mine.
Okay, so apparently he had a cat that he named Katarina. World-class author here.
Terrible cat name author.
And apparently the cat would often sit on his shoulder while he wrote. But he never had a raccoon. They said that the imagery of the raccoon is mainly from The Raven and an anime and manga series that gave Edgar Allan Poe a pet raccoon named Carl.
Carl.
With a K.
I just remember The Walking Dead. Carl.
Yeah, apparently Edgar Allan Poe was very known for his love of cats, and in particular Katarina, but he was like a cat person, which what we know of him, that sounds about right. He seems like a cat person.
And you can see it in his poems too. He has quite a few different cats showing up here and there. So
yeah, and different like metaphors and similes with cats, and yeah,
Mhm.
I think that totally fits with that very recluse kind of personality.
Yeah.
Not a dog person.
Yeah. You think you ever saw a cat crawling out of pavement? Tile.
Probably that's what twisted his mind when he was young. He saw a cat just out of the cement.
Okay, so as far as like trying to red herring, they also throw in the sailor, who they find later on, and like there's the whole thing of like, oh, it's blood, blah blah blah. No, it's fake stage blood. So I think they do a lot of good like, just like turning the audiences and like kind of playing against what's it called?
So the sailor in particular, like, so something, as somebody who's read like a decent amount of Poe, do you feel like, I think one of the coolest parts of this movie was seeing kind of the Easter eggs and references to the different stories, beyond just the murders, of course. Do you think the sailor was meant to be a part of the infamous chimpanzee story?
No.
You don't think so? You don't think that was meant to be like the sailor in that story, like the reference? Do you know that story?
No.
It's The Murders in the Rue Morgue. It's considered the first modern detective story. The murder is not a chimpanzee, but an escaped orangutan. That's it. It's an orangutan that uses a razor to kill people. That's who the killer was.
I obviously we know some of his stories deal with like sailors and stuff like that. I almost wondered if it was an homage to like the theories that Jack the Ripper was a sailor. So it was just that or like he rode on merchant ships. So I
mean,
didn't know if it
that
was
explains
to,
why he would have disappeared.
yeah. Well, and I didn't know if that was just to trick the mind and to think, oh, that makes sense. Like it's a sailor, they're easy to come and go. And so I thought that's maybe why that was in there.
I could see it.
Yeah, no, Jack the Ripper is another one. Well, I don't think we'll ever know who it was, just because
I
it's been
think that
so
would have
long.
been a really interesting way to take this movie, though, if it would have been that the killer was Jack the Ripper.
Well, yeah,
That had
because
come.
he goes to England right at the end.
Yeah.
And obviously he gets shot at the end. Luke Evans kills him, but it up until that point, it felt like they were trying to work up to a sequel where there's just like this murderer going after like famous writers, and obviously
Yeah,
Luke Evans kills
he
him.
fights Charles Dickens in the next one.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh yeah, and then of course Luke Evans shoots him. But yeah, it would have been an interesting thing. Obviously, Jack the Ripper is like 30 years post death.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could see it. It'd be kind of a fun little.
See, so
little funny story.
the only thing that falls apart, I think, in them saying that this is what happened to Poe, there's no way that even he dies there. I feel like Luke Evans' character and so like they would have made sure people knew what happened.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been a mystery. It would have been like he died like a hero, like he was helping. He took a killer off the streets, saved this woman. There's no way they would have just been like, oh, he drank himself to death. You know what I mean? There was no reason that they would have kept it a secret.
Yeah. The only reason they keep it a secret and there's a murderer is if the murderer was like some rich person or some influential politician or something where they're like, we can't let the public know, like it'll hurt the image of so and so.
Like if it would have been Luke Evans, like a cop, somebody
Yeah.
high up or something that would have destroyed society if they would have known.
Yeah, if it's
That's the
just his
only way
apprentice
that-
at the paper shop, nah, they're telling everybody.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah, no way do they just leave that off.
Plus, it would have been a great story for the papers and sold so many.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, papers at the time, people liked the macabre. It was a big thing. That's why I think Edgar had the amount of success that he did.
Because again, he was one of the only people doing it and doing it well.
Well, and like we said, even you look at Washington Irving with his story of Sleepy Hollow, nowhere near as dark or macabre. And it's just like kind of like a spooky-ish tale for like 3 pages out of how many?
And it doesn't even get like there's no gore.
No,
There's no like
Just
fear
throwing
or
pumpkins
like
around.
it's almost excitement of what's happening. Like, oh my god, is he gonna get away? Like,
Going into his death in the movie, he just dies on the bench, but in reality, he was found like in a gutter, disheveled, taken to the hospital, And that's where he's like talking with specters and stuff.
And for a couple of days, he's just like raving.
Yeah. And I guess you can't show that in the movie because, of course, he takes the poison and dies pretty quickly. Maybe,
Again, like whatever happened to him in real life, it broke him. Like, I don't know if it was poison, alcohol, like whatever it was, it broke that man.
Yeah. Yeah, because he wasn't even wearing like his clothes, I think, when they found him.
No, he was disheveled in somebody else's clothes. He was talking about people that didn't make that nobody knew who he was talking about.
Which I did like that little aspect at the end of this one where he's like babbling and giving the last name. And that one dude's like, "You're making no sense." I'm like, "Oh, it's a fun little like Easter egg to like people that
because that's what happened."
Yeah. And so I thought that was fun. I'm trying to think. As far as like cinematography, I don't know if it was just the copy I watched it on, but it was very, very dark, which feels of the time, unfortunately.
It was. It kind of feels like there's like a dark filter over the entire movie. Yeah. And I'm sure that's because it was about Poe that,
Yeah, they're like, we gotta make it a
gotta
little
be dark and spooky.
Yeah. Like looking at your background with the red, I wish there was a little bit more of a red tint to it, kind of like in From Hell where everything's dark but red.
Or at least some scene, like maybe just the murders we see or something being like that. Or, I thought that was Brenden at first, like making that noise.
Brenden, it's supposed to be a raven.
Craw!
Actual raven. Speaking of raven, did you like when they opened the casket and the raven came out?
I did. I thought that was cool. And it added a little, almost like a little supernatural touch to being like, oh, did he become the raven? Did he, like
the actor in here that obviously plays the actual serial killer, do you think he could have played a version of the Joker?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought that, but I was like, this guy, I could have seen, like, he carries the scene, and he really only in it for that scene, and then at the end when he gets shot. But Brennan, what do you think of the cinematography? Was it too dark? What were your thoughts there?
I don't think it was too dark. Yeah, I surprisingly, for how dark of a movie it is, I didn't, I could watch it in the dark or with the light on or something. Yeah.
What'd you think of the story itself? Like, what are your thoughts on the film, The Raven?
I really enjoyed it. There was parts of it where I was like, I feel like this is a Criminal Minds episode. It made sense at the end, like that it was, his apprentice or something. Like that makes sense to me. Yeah, I really enjoyed the story. I know my girlfriend who watched it with me, she thought it was a little slow, needed a little more action. The beginning where where one of the murders happens and he gets cut in half by those swinging blades. Mm-hmm. She asked if we were watching a Saw movie. Just because it's one of those traps and deadly things. I don't know.
Had she never read The Pit and the Pendulum?
Probably not. So, like I said, I really enjoyed it. But I like those types of movies, so I didn't think.
So here's my question: before seeing this movie, how many stories or poems have you actually read from Edgar Allan Poe?
0, David.
Okay, so that's good. I mean, that shows that it's something you can enjoy, even if you're not somebody that knows the references that all this is coming from and the background of it. So it's still able to be like a cohesive, good story, regardless of being in the know or whatnot.
Right.
So I think that's a good point in their favor.
Yeah, the Poe story I think that has always stuck with me is the Black Cat, and just with it being like in the wall, like talking about the murder. Well, not talking about like giving it away.
Kitty Cat Club. He was one of the founding members.
Our Kitty Cat Club did not do very well when we picked them, so I blame them. Well, David, before we end off, what are your final thoughts with the Raven here?
I think it's a very fun movie. I mean, as a writer myself, I think I do have a predilection towards literature-based things and authors and stuff, especially ones that I enjoy. So I thought this was a really cool take on Poe. Again, made him more likable, I think, than the real one, which was fine with me. Love John Cusack. I think he nails this. Like, he does a very good job of being somebody that I believe is like a troubled person, but also kind of toes that line right in between of being like eccentric writer kind of person. Alice Eve, gorgeous. She does a great job. Luke Evans is a good kind of side character. Like it all came together well. The casting is good. It doesn't perfectly fit into history, but that's okay. It'd be very difficult to do that. So I think this is a very innovative take on a mystery that, again, has been around for a couple hundred years. They did awesome with that, and I do love all the references that are in it beyond just the murders. You can tell that whoever created this and was making it, part of it, in their mind at least, was definitely like a love letter to Poe's works. I think they definitely wanted to honor what had come before, and I think they did a good job of doing that without making it too cheesy or overboard or anything like that. So yeah, honestly, fantastic movie. I'd say 8.5, 9 out of 10.
Brenden, what about you?
I agree. I would have given it an 8 out of 10. I just think it's a good murder mystery. It kind of makes me want to go read some of his stuff, just to see what other things I might be missing out, just because I don't know a lot about him. And so,
Yeah, no, I definitely recommend it. You can find some collected works on Amazon, or like me and David said, go to like a Barnes Noble. They have a really nice little bound edition.
I think it's like $20.
Yeah, it is. Like
Maybe not even. Like, yeah.
If you go on Black Friday, you can get like 2 for 20. So even better. They've got
awesome, like any classic literature you can think, easy to grab. I think they're even doing like a Halloween thing now, because you can get like Dracula, Frankenstein, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've just not picked one up.
Yeah, I was probably gonna stop into a Barnes and Noble today, see what I can find. But on that note, yeah, I think this one. Wait, did you give a rating, Brennan?
Yeah, I said 8 out of 10.
Okay, I can't remember. I got like lost in thinking about Barnes and Noble. But yeah, for me, I really like this one. Maybe not as much as I did when I first saw it. I have been watching movies that I think are very, very similar into tone that maybe just do it slightly better, but this is still really, really good. There's lots of little Easter eggs for people that know Poe. There's still enough history that you can go into watching it and not like get thrown off. But I think we need more movies like this where it's, yeah, telling a historical story, but making it fun and innovative enough to where people like Brennan, who don't know too much about it, want to go and watch it. And it's still respectable to who it was. And it's in, like, I feel like if Poe watched this, he wouldn't be upset. Sometimes we talked about it, like when we did our Wizard of Oz stuff. How would, Frank Baum think about some of these movies that have come out post? I don't think Poe would be upset with this. So I think solid 8 out of 10.
It definitely doesn't make a mockery or anything of what he's done.
No, and like you said, it might actually make him look better than he was. So he might like that. But I think it's good. It's a good introduction into some of his stories. You can see that and be like, wow, that's really weird. Like maybe, like Brennan said, the Saw stuff, maybe they were big fans of Poe and they pulled some of that from his stories. There's so much because of when Poe was, he is influential to so many. And yeah, I definitely recommend watching it. David, I know you kind of dropped that tease for your video with Poe. Do you want to just let people know again where to go watch that for this?
Yeah, definitely. Over my channel, Abnormal Voyages. We went to the Poe Museum a couple years back, and fantastic place. Of course, that's where he's originally from, so there was a lot of really cool things they had there, a lot about his life. Kind of followed the whole story from, his birth, his parents dying, what he went from there, all the way through his death. And then we even go and visit the grave of the woman who was the inspiration for the Raven, that was Lenore. So it's pretty cool. A lot of history out there, and hopefully someday we make it over to Baltimore and check out the house and the actual grave of Poe himself.
Hey, maybe next Halloween we'll do some fun collabs. We'll be up in Oregon. We'll be in Baltimore, just doing some cool stuff.
Only 2 different sides of the country. Let's do it.
Hey, we don't have to film it all in October, but they can be different times. That's the fun thing about YouTube. You can film stuff and then post it later. But yeah, go check that out over at David's channel. We'll be back tomorrow talking Casper, so stay tuned for that. Should be a fun Universal. I'm sure a lot of people know the story of Casper the Friendly Ghost. He's only been around for what seems like forever.
Like the movie itself is 30 years.
Yeah.
So he, in like the comics and stuff, way more.
Yeah, way more. So yeah, join us tomorrow if you guys want a little bit more about Edgar Allan Poe on our channel here. We do have that interview with Mark Dewitziak, who wrote a book on Poe. So go check that out. I'll link it above. But until next time, guys, for more Culz interviews, click that link to your left. For more here at Culz, click that link to your right. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And tell us in the comments below, what is your favorite poem by Poe?